GarcÍa Loza is a self-taught Pocha playwright and producer rooted in Chicago, Illinois, and Jalisco, Mexico. Her audio drama, Brava, a folktale con música, launched Make Believes Association's inaugural season this year and gained recognition from the New York Times. She is currently under commission from Make Believe Association, 16th Street Theater, Chicago Dramatist, Teatro Leiden, and more. She is a proud first-generation alumni of DePaul University with a double concentration in Latinx and Latin American Studies and Spanish. Beyond teatro, she serves on the board of directors of Mujeres Latinas en Acción. Her loves include storytelling, corridos, y birria. Let's welcome Nancy GarcÍa Loza to the stage.
Hello, everyone. I'm a Pocha and a playwright. I am a Pocha playwright from Chicago y Jalisco. It took me years to be able to say that, like long Mexican years. Even after I worked in Chicago theaters all over the city for nearly a decade, it still took me years to be able to say that confidently and believe it. This is not a story about making it. This is a very windy, thorny, insecure story about the camino that I took to find my calling. A road on which I was bien terca, a road on which I often didn't listen to my ancestors and my familia whispering and telling me, "Mija, you have a calling." This is a story about ignoring those voices for many years. I ignored them even on last summer, when opportunity came knocking at my door. In 2018, I got a message from a very fancy New York theater maker. I didn't really know who he was, and I didn't look him up because I knew that would make me more nervous. But I knew his name, and I knew that Maria Hinojosa had told me about a year earlier that when I got back to Chicago, I should look him up and I should meet him. Me dijo, he's a good guy, ¿verdad? Like a good Chicago homegirl, I followed advice from Maria Hinojosa. So when I got the message, I was like, all right, let's do it. Let's do the lunch. Let's do the thing, ¿verdad? So in the course of scheduling that meeting, for 1 month, I rehearsed every excuse to cancel my meeting with this theater maker. I am talking como major imposter syndrome. I came up with all kinds of things. I started and deleted text messages and emails to not let the meeting happen. The day that I actually had the meeting, I was already at the corner. I could go straight and go home and pack a bag and pretend I would never even have that meeting on the calendar, or I could go left and show up to the meeting. I started to type yet another text message to come up with an excuse to cancel that meeting. And ultimately, God bless, I heard that little voice again that reminded me. I was like, you know what, Nancy, if your familia can leave Jalisco and not see home for years, a veces se venían sin papeles, they didn't even know what winter was and what blizzards were gonna hold. I'm like, you can show up to a meeting and eat eggs and listen and nod and sip some coffee. So that's what I took with me, right? Like, I really appreciate that little Mexicanidad and that courage, that your attitude that like, pues que chingados, I'll just show up. Because I'm telling you, that is the thing that let me like swing open the door. And step one, show up, right? So I'm sitting at this meeting across from this man, y todo está yendo like bien polite, bien nice, all the little pleasantries, ¿verdad? And so the man asked me the inevitable theater question. What's your origin story? So I crack up, actually. It sounded a little like this. My origin story in theater. So I collect myself after a big carcajada, and I was like, well, in 2011, I had a soul-sucking job in Joliet, Illinois, working insurance. No, I was not an insurance broker. I was the secretary at an insurance job. It was bien sad things. And I quit that job. And I quit that job precisely because it was soul-sucking and I needed a change. And what I did during this time when I was looking for my new green camino, for what the rest of my life could look like, I actually went back into my old college notebooks and I started looking at the notes that I had scribbled in the margins, and the margins were talking to me. What they kept telling me was, next to like all my notes about like Rulfo, Quijote, Cisneros, Poniatowska, I would have like little jokes that I came up with, or prompts and ideas for writing different stories, the margins were talking. And they were saying, girl, remember when you wanted to be a storyteller? Remember when all you wanted to do was write stories? That's all you wanted to do. And so with that, I was like, that's what helped me just like do the thing. Now, problem, what happens when you find your calling and you don't know what to do at all? Well, the first thing I did was I bought a ticket to the first theater show I ever saw in Chicago. It was Las Soldaderas, an adaptation beautifully done by Aguijón Theater. It's a work by Elena Poniatowska. So that was the first theater experience I ever had in 2011. ¿Verdad? So I bought my ticket, and when I saw all those Latinas embodying undertold stories of brave Mexicanas during the Revolution, shout out to the Independence Day, I was just like, that's it, I have the bug, ¿verdad? Pero I didn't know how to do anything in theater. So what does one do? If you're Mexican and you don't know how to do it, you do it, right? So I started volunteering all over Chicago. I supported this volunteering by also holding a regular day job, ¿verdad? And then my theater stuff became my second and my third job and my graveyard shift job. And I was just like being determined to make, like, just to stay in theater and learn as much as I could do. 5 years into this camino, I had racked up like quite a few producer credits, and I had really worked with a lot of like admirable theater companies all over Chicago. But I kind of kept looking, and I said, pues sí, estás aprendiendo, but everything keeps pointing at you're still doing the work of other people. So I really had to sort of sit there and be like, what happened to me in my own story? Where did I go, right? So that really propelled me to be like, no, me tengo que comprometer, and I need to go back to the reason I got into theater, which is to write the stories that I need to tell. So I'm back at lunch. The man looks at me, and he goes, Nancy, he's baffled. He's like, you didn't go to undergrad for this? No. Did you go to grad school for this? No. Did you start as an actor? Hell no. No cards. So he's just very puzzled, and he's like, Nancy, he leans in even closer, and he goes, like, he's telling me a secret, right? And he's like, I'm starting a theater company here in Chicago. We're gonna make radionovelas, radio plays. He's like, and I am looking for a writer to adapt a Mexican folktale, right? There it is, opportunity right on my plato next to my eggs with chorizo. So I grab that moment, right? It's there. Mentira, I don't grab that moment at all. I proceed to pitch him 4 other playwrights. I recoil into myself. I tell him what makes them great, what makes them brilliant. I am literally talking myself into invisibility when opportunity is right in front of me. I can touch it, I can smell it. This completely confounds the man that I'm sitting across from. And so then he leans in again, very surprised, and he says, delicately, ¿verdad? He's like, Nancy, I'm looking for a writer to adapt a Jalisco folktale. Sas way. Jalisco. I was like, okay. So I sipped my coffee, clinked my spoon around my mug, and I was like, okay. And I don't know what physically actually shook me in that moment. I don't know if my abuelas, Lula y Mariquita, came from the grave and like pulled my trenza to be like, pendeja, Dios te viene a ver y te escondes. Because I just like channeled some of that courage, right? And then I go, Jalisco. Oh, a folk tale about a brave girl that confronts monsters. And I set my coffee cup down, and I lean across to him, and I say, that's my story. Es mío. Es mía. Right? So in the course of writing that story, I cannot tell you how many times I would question things like, why me? Like, why that meeting? And someone else could have done it better, pero no tengo el training, pero no he hecho esto, no hice esto, no aprendí esto todavía, right? And so I continue to learn and do. And I've had a lot of time since having that meeting to think about, why did I do that? Why did I run away from opportunity when it was right in front of me? And I did come up with that answer. Si yo me he hecho mentiras, I think that the reason is, ay, porque yo soy tan buena que les recomendé bien muchos escritores. Mentira, right? The reality is, as simple as this, it's because I thought I wasn't good enough. Punto. How many Mexicanas are sitting in this room and you know that feeling? You know what it is to sentirte chiquita, to sentirte that you're not worthy of the thing in front of you, to sentirte que no sabes, que no vales, right? You hear yourself say it, no, pero pues yo quién soy, which is really as painful as saying, yo soy nadie, right? So I had to really sit there and wrestle with that monster. And what did I do? I wrote the thing, ¿verdad? By 2019, my play, I was the novice playwright in that company, and my play launched that company. I wrote a woman-centered corrido for that project. I had never done that before either. But what told me, hey, you can do this? I remembered that 10 years earlier, my mother, during a moment of grief, my mother who has a 6th grade education and is one of the most wise and profound artists that I know, I remembered that my mother had written a corrido to memorialize her brother. So yo no necesité más escuela, right? The things that I have to tell about my family and my gente, they're in me, they're in my DNA. The fancy program isn't gonna give me my voice. So yeah, I wrote the shit out of that thing. And you bet I was super proud when the words Pocha Playwright and Jalisco. When those words appeared on the front page of the New York Times art section, you bet I was proud, and you bet I called my mom. So, all this to say that when you hear me say, I am a pocha, I am a playwright, I am from Jalisco, I am from Chicago, always and at the same time, when you hear me say all of those things, what I am really telling you is I am enough. I am a pocha playwright and I am enough. I am good enough. All right? And we are here, and algo vivimos aquí en Chicago. Y nos venimos de muchas partes y tenemos muchas historias que contar. And we're worthy. We're worthy of not living in shadows. We're worthy of living under these bright lights. Y ese es mi compromiso, ¿verdad? We're brave y no nos rajamos. Los quiero mucho. Gracias.